introduce me. My name is Alexey. I am a product owner at Revolut, and the topic of my talk today is best practices of building an MVP within a larger product landscape. The reason the topic is like this is because many startups build MVPs from scratch, right, without any other corporate context. But within Revolut, we already have a financial super app, and you have to really mind the landscape you're building something in. So in Revolut, I work at a product called Referrals. It is one of the main acquisition channels for Revolut, and I work within the user lifecycle team. So Referrals is an acquisition channel. I know Revolut is not present in the UAE just yet, so let me give a brief intro about Revolut. So Revolut is a global neobank that serves more than 40 million customers as of this month in 30 plus countries. It offers daily banking services, so stuff like transfers, cards, but it also is a super app, meaning that we have a bunch of mini apps offering more niche services to select target audiences. So we have crypto, trading, you can buy hotels, you can buy insurance, and much, much more stuff. Next slide, please. So the topic for my keynote today will be the following. So we'll go through a few steps. So first, I'll give you the product basics of referrals to make all of you experts on building referral programs in your own products whenever you need one, right? So then we'll talk about what makes a good MVP, and we'll then move on to considering two cases. So first, we'll discuss how we have built an MVP for referrals for Revolut Business, and the second one would be the MVP of referrals for Revolut Crypto. And throughout these cases, and at the very end, we'll wrap up with the best practices that helped us make these MVPs a success. Next slide. Yeah, so first, let's talk a bit about the referrals themselves, right? So referrals are an acquisition channel that you should treat like any other acquisition channel, like affiliate marketing or performance. And it can be very effective, if managed right, to drive high volume of users to your product. And one of the main advantages of referrals, it is very frequent that it does so at a cost lower than the performance marketing. So it's very important to hack the referrals right. And just two terms to remember, these will pop up throughout my presentation when I present the MVPs. The referrer refers to the person that invites a friend to the app, and an invitee is someone who is being invited. I know it's basic, but still. And just to get you excited about referrals, referrals are basically a word of mouth on steroids. And if you don't like the word steroids, we can say with rewards, right? And the reason it's important is because without rewards, referrals are a word of mouth with some UX built in where you can share a referral link and that's it. But you can really amplify the impact for your business if you add incentives there. And by incentives, I mean anything like something non-monetary. So those could be perks in your app, right? So if you're offering some services or products, you can give them away. You can give away a trial subscription or something for referring a friend. Or those could be cash equivalents. And by cash equivalents, I mean either cash itself, like we'll see in the case of Revolut, or direct discounts to the product you're offering, which are not really perks, but the financial value you're giving. So incentives cost company money, and you really want to make sure that you're paying these incentives to customers that are worth it. And that brings us to the concept of the redemption criteria or the requirements that you set for users to achieve for you to pay them the reward, right? And the reward requirements are basically a set of actions for the invitee to complete to make sure that they have experienced the core value of your product. I'll give you an example. So you would want users to pass through the onboarding in the app. In case of the banks, it's something like Know Your Customer, where you have to take a picture and photo your documents and a bunch more stuff. In lighter apps like Uber, you'll have to enter your phone number, but it's generally a somewhat cumbersome process which doesn't give any value to the user because the value comes later after they create the account. So one of the actions you would usually want to set up is setting up the account first and then experiencing the core value of the product. For Uber, that would be getting a ride. For Revolut, that would be experiencing spending money with Revolut. And you can pick whichever thing activates the users for you. You don't have to guess. Usually you can use some analytics to measure which actions are at the center of your product and which ones are actually driving long-term retention and high lifetime value, right? So this one. As I mentioned, rewards cost money, right? And just to get away with financials, you can pay rewards to two sides or just one side, usually the referrer or the invitee, and those rewards cost the company money. So the essential part to make economics for referrals work is to make sure that the customer acquisition cost, which is the cost for your referral rewards, is above the lifetime value of the user. And generally, if you're building a product with a long-term retention, like a bank, lifetime value could be calculated through a really long time horizon. And the economic environment, as we all know, is not too stable. So you would also want to pick ROMI, return on marketing investment, as your target, which is basically a relation between the gross profit per user for a given period that you're targeting and the customer acquisition cost, which in this case is the cost of the incentives. So let's look at how referrals look in retail. I appreciate the font can be a bit small, so I'll read them out for you. So this is the product I'm working on in referrals, and that's how we're bringing hundreds and thousands of customers a year to the company. So it reads, earn 50 quid, British pounds, for each friend that you invite to Revolut. The offer ends in 16 days, and then you go through what the friends have to do. So here's the reward redemption requirement I was just talking about, right, that we have set up. So it starts with sign up with your invite link. The first step is attribution, right? Like in performance marketing, you have to know that the user was referred or acquired to track their progress. Number two would be adding money. Of course, you have to learn how to add money to a bank to actually spend it, so it's an absolutely key activation point in the user journey. It can be something like an ATM top-up or a transfer via IBAN from another bank. Whoever users do it, you have to teach them how to do it and incentivize them to go through that journey. Then they have to order a physical card. I don't want to disclose too much, but you can appreciate how ordering a physical card to have a token of membership of your bank could be important for users to stay with the bank longer. In essence, this is also a sense check if the user really wants to use your product, right? So if they're not too committed to using it, they will likely not order a card, they'll stick to a virtual that they can add to Google Pay, and it's a proxy for tracking how long will they be retained. And last but not least, again, as I was speaking, the core product value. The core product value for a daily bank, and something the easiest thing you could do with a bank, is actually spend your hard-earned money that you've put in your account, right? And this is the last step, is making 3 eligible purchases above a certain threshold. So the rewards on top and the requirements vary by country, I mean the financials, because we have different unit economics in different countries, so we have to adjust them accordingly for the financial model to work in every single market. And after users are familiar with the value proposition, they have a few sharing options. So on the bottom, they can copy link, share it through a native sharing in the operating system, or they can choose one of their contacts in their contact list that they allowed access to contacts. After they have invited friends, they will start appearing in the tracking, so the banner will be replaced by the invitee tracking widget. Because we're offering financial rewards, you can imagine that people care about whether they get them or not. So we have to give them visibility on how to track the users in the app. And they have a short version of the tracker on the main page, and then they can actually click on it and go into the details of how their invitee is progressing. Next slide, please. So we have talked about Revolut, we have talked about referrals. Now it's time to talk about what makes a good MVP, right? The topic why we're all here today. I'll start with the formal definition. Agile Alliance defines an MVP as the version of the product that allows a team to collect the maximum amount of validated learning about customers with the least amount of effort. I love this definition. It is so accurate, but it's also a mouthful. Let's unpack what exactly does it mean. So if we zoom out, a product is something you're offering to your customers that brings them value, right? Very generically. And if you don't have a product yet and you think of building an MVP, then you only have a hypothesis of what will bring value to your customers. And that's basically where the MVP comes in. The sole purpose of the MVP is to allow you to test your value hypothesis. And by that I mean, you want to find out if users find enough value in your product to pay for it either through cash, right? They can buy your product, they can purchase it, or if it's a freemium, they'll spend enough time and they'll dedicate enough attention in your app for you to monetize it through ads. And last but not least, it is do something in your behalf. And here I'm hinting towards referrals, right? So the company is getting revenue from this indirectly when you are inviting friends and you are earning from the friends they have invited. Next. Yep. Could we do a show of hands of how many people have seen this image before? Yay, we have a well-educated crowd today, excited about MVPs. That's amazing. So, for those who don't know, I'll quickly skim through it, right? So this is a image that went viral by Hendrik Kniberg, which gives a good and a bad example of building an MVP. Let's consider the case on the top first. Let's say we all get together, we start a company of building electric cars, and we want to build an MVP of an electric car. Then today we know what cars look like, so we'll just, I don't know, we'll look at Tesla and copy a bit. If there is nothing on the market, you'll probably start with something like a wheel that spins, that can propel you throughout the road. You'll then add a wheelbase, a body, and then you'll put some electronics in the steering in. And this then will become a car, a simple one, but nonetheless. The problem with this concept is you'll only get your first user feedback at point number 4, which can be really late in the game. And by that time, you have invested a lot of money into doing it, and only then you'll know if people even like it or need it. It is very frequent that people fall in love with their product ideas, they raise capital, and then they do it, only to find out after they have built the MVP that there isn't actually demand for it. When you do customer development, people might be like, of course, I have that painful need, and I really want you to build that product. I'm so excited for you to build it, I'll buy it. And then the launch day comes, and you are searching for customers that are nowhere to be found. Do not fall into that trap. Let's look at the example number 2. So this is not to be interpreted directly, right? This is not to say that a skateboard is any equivalent of a car, but it's a metaphor. We start with the core value proposition, right? Is getting from point A to point B. And we can start with a skateboard, assuming that you only have legs, no buses, no trams, no trains, nothing. The only thing as transportation that exists is a skateboard. Skateboard is not perfect. You have to balance and you have to propel yourself and to move forward. So, but by making a skateboard in less than, I don't know, a few days, you can get feedback from users that they have a hard time balancing on it. And then you'll add a handle to make it a scooter. Then it'll turn out that people get tired propelling themselves using a scooter, so we move on to a bicycle, which is more effective, which will then turn into a bike. And when you want to add safety features and convenience and more people, then you'll end up with a car. The good thing about this is you're getting feedback on every stage of that, on every step of that process. And when you're actually building the product on the top, you're actually just with a wheel. You sort of know where you're going, but you have no idea if it's the right direction, right? So iterative development is key to getting customer feedback in the process to validate that you're going to the right direction. So this is the bit that was in the Agile Alliance definition, validated learning. That's what the MVPs are all about. So here I am working at Revolut, making retail referrals great, testing hypothesis, making customer experience better. And a Slack message reaches out to me. Hey, we see referrals are working amazing in retail banking. We have to grow Revolut Business, and we want to try doing a referral program for Revolut Business. Okay. By that time, I haven't worked with Revolut Business much, so I had to open an internal wiki to actually read what they do. And I want to educate you too. Next slide. So Revolut Business is much like the Revolut for consumers, but for businesses. It offers everyday corporate banking, which is sending and receiving payments, issuing corporate cards, putting limits on those corporate cards, issuing invoices, and all of this stuff that is good about business banking. So, okay, now we know what the product is all about. It's time to design an MVP of referrals, right? We know what makes a good MVP, we know what makes a referral program. Let's go on a journey of designing a program for them.